Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What are we exploring today?
Well, this time it's something that I think really adds a certain flavor to language,
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Idioms. Those expressions that don't quite mean what the words literally say.
Oh, idioms. I love those. They're like little linguistic puzzles.
Exactly. And you are amazing listeners. You sent in a whole bunch of them. Some familiar, some... Honestly, I've never even heard of some of these.
That's the beauty of idioms, right?
Yeah.
They can be so specific to a culture or a time period.
So true. All right, well, let's jump right in, shall we? We've got this first group that all seem, well, pretty action-packed. Lots of movement and energy.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, how about batten down the hatches? Doesn't that just make you think of, like, a ship preparing for a storm?
It totally does. And it's interesting how that image, from the nautical world has become this metaphor for getting ready for any kind of trouble.
Yeah, like bracing yourself for a tough week at work or something. Speaking of tough, here's one I bet a lot of us can relate to. Burn the candle at both ends.
Oof. Guilty as charged. That one's a classic for a reason, right? Feeling stretched thin, doing too much.
And I wonder, did it originally mean literally burning a candle on both sides to get more light?
It probably did, which is kind of a cool reflection of how idioms evolve, right? From something literal to this, metaphor for pushing ourselves to the limit.
Sometimes to the point of burnout, which is a whole other conversation. But okay, sometimes you need to be quick, decisive. How about cut to the chase? That's my go-to when a meeting's dragging on.
To the point.
Yeah.
I think that one reflects a culture that values, efficiency?
Makes sense. No time for chit-chat. Let's get down to business.
And it makes you think, how communication styles differ around the world. Some cultures might love that directness. Others might prefer a more, roundabout approach.
That's a great point. So even simple idioms can give us these glimpses into bigger cultural patterns. All right, well, this deep dive is already fascinating. And hey, you know what else a lot of idioms use? Animals.
Oh, yeah. Animal imagery is super common. I guess it tapped into those universal experiences, right? We all kind of get what a dog or a cat is like.
Makes them relatable. So let's see, we've got barking up the wrong tree. I mean, we've all seen that dog fixated on a tree that's clearly empty, haven't we?
Yep. Perfect image for pursuing a mistaken line of thought or a dead-end project.
And then there's the one, when someone betrays a friend, bite the hand that feeds you.
Ooh, that one's a bit darker, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are some consequences to actions.
Strong imagery, though. Okay, here's a classic that always makes me think. Curiosity killed the cat. Is it, like, a warning against being too curious or just being careful what we're curious about?
I think there's wisdom in both interpretations. On the one hand, don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. But on the other hand, maybe it's also about the dangers of knowledge. Like, some things are better left unknown. Ooh, that's deep. Adds a whole new layer to that one for sure. And then the opposite approach, my grandma's favorite. Let sleeping dogs lie.
Words to live by. Don't stir up trouble if you don't have to. Again, such a simple image, a dog napping, but it conveys so much.
Timeless wisdom. Okay, well, let's shift gears a bit. How about those idioms that help us navigate the whole, social world? All those interactions and sometimes awkward moments we have with other people.
All right, the social dance. Yeah, I'm curious how language reflects those unspoken rules we all kind of follow.
All right, well, to start things off, let's talk about breaking the ice. I picture it like networking events, first dates, those situations where everyone's a bit nervous.
So true. It's about finding that initial connection point, that shared joke, that common interest, something to ease the tension and set the tone for, hopefully, a good interaction. But once the ice is broken, sometimes you gotta be blunt. How about call a spade a spade?
No sugarcoating there.
Yeah.
Just straight talk, even if it might ruffle some feathers.
Gets the point across, that's for sure. But then the opposite can happen, right? People just climb up.
The sudden silence. Happens to the best of us. Shy, scared, or maybe just taking a moment to process before speaking.
Have you ever clammed up when you actually wanted to say something?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Like my brain knows what I want to say, but my mouth's gone on strike or something.
Yeah, those social pressures can be a lot. It's amazing how a simple phrase can capture that whole experience, though.
Language is powerful like that. Okay, well, from starting conversations to those awkward silences, what's next in our idiom adventure?
Choices. Specifically, those idioms that deal with, making decisions and facing the consequences. Pretty central to the human experience, right?
Definitely. And I bet there are a lot of idioms about that.
Let's start with one that captures that feeling of being trapped. caught between a rock and a hard place. It's like, no matter what you choose, there are downsides.
It's that feeling of limited options, like you're stuck in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, how often those dilemmas are imposed by outside forces, societal pressures, economic factors.
Great point. It's not always a simple good choice versus bad choice.
Yeah.
But even when we make mistakes, we've got to remember not to dwell on them, right? Don't cry over spilled milk.
My mom used to say that all the time. And it's so true. What's done is done. Focus on what you can change going forward.
Words of wisdom. But for those who like to live on the edge of it, how about go out on a limb?
There's that risk-taking element, right? Stepping outside that comfort zone, even if it means being vulnerable.
I wonder if there's like a psychological component to it too. Some people just love that thrill, others prefer to play it safe.
Fascinating to think about. So even within these seemingly simple phrases, there are layers of meaning and connections to bigger ideas.
This is really making me appreciate the power of language. All right, well, buckle up. Things are about to get a little shady.
What do you mean?
Next up, we're diving into the world of deception and secrets. Those idioms that reveal the hidden side of human nature.
I'm ready for some intrigue. Let's see what we uncover. Ooh, secrets.
Deception. I have a feeling these idioms might be a little juicier than the last batch.
Well, let's see, shall we? How about we start with, this one. Cook the books.
Sounds kind of harmless, almost like a baking show or something.
Right, but we're talking about, serious financial fraud, aren't we?
Yeah.
Altering those records.
It's almost like the idiom itself is trying to downplay how bad it actually is.
Maybe. Like if we call it cooking, it seems less, criminal, less intimidating.
Interesting thought. And speaking of putting on a show, how about those fake tears? Crocodile tears.
Oof, that one just makes me picture those reptiles all cold-blooded, using those fake tears to lure in their prey.
So it's a warning to be wary, right? Not all displays of emotion are genuine.
Exactly. Trust your gut, Someone might seem sympathetic, but maybe they've got an ulterior motive.
Good advice. Okay, and last but not least in this shady bunch, that reminder that everyone has something to hide. A skeleton in the closet.
Ooh, that one's deep. It's universal, isn't it? We all have those past experiences, secrets, regrets we'd rather keep hidden.
It makes you wonder, at what point does a secret become too heavy to bear?
That's a whole other deep dive waiting to happen. But for now, let's move on to a more, uplifting theme, shall we?
Sounds good to me. What have we got?
How about idioms about resilience? Overcoming those tough times, bouncing back.
Perfect. I have a feeling you might have some personal experience with this theme, given all you've accomplished.
Well, everyone faces challenges, right? It's part of life.
Right.
And I've always been drawn to that language of strength, of getting back up when you're knocked down.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's start with one that has, ancient origins, Achilles' heel. It comes from Greek mythology, right?
It does. Achilles, this incredible warrior, was practically invincible, except for one tiny spot. His heel.
And that one weakness, it ultimately led to his downfall, right?
Tragic.
Yeah.
But it gives us this powerful metaphor, Even the strongest person has a vulnerability.
It's a good reminder that, no one's perfect. And sometimes those weaknesses, they're what make us human.
I like that. It's about embracing those imperfections while still striving to be our best selves.
All right, now for one that sounds a little rough around the edges. Against the grain.
This one, to me, is all about not conforming, doing things your own way, even if it's not the normal way.
Like that friend who always orders the most unusual thing on the menu just to be different.
Exactly. And, sometimes that unconventional approach leads to breakthroughs, new discoveries.
So being against the grain isn't always a bad thing.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's how progress happens.
All right, well, let's talk about those folks who are all bark and no bite, lots of tough talk, but...
Right. No follow through. They act all intimidating, but when it comes down to it, they don't actually do anything.
Empty threats. I'm sure we've all encountered a few of those in our lives.
Makes you realize the importance of actions speaking louder than words.
Absolutely. Okay, now for a complete 180. Those who act at the drop of a hat. Sounds so spontaneous.
It is. Ready for anything, impulsive, jumping into action without hesitation.
That carpe diem spirit, seizing the moment.
Exactly. But on the flip side, sometimes you do have to wait until the last minute, at the 11th hour.
Oof, don't I know it. Those deadline scrambles, heart racing, hoping you get it all done in time.
Not the most ideal approach, but sometimes it's the only way.
Well, we made it through another batch of idioms. What's next on our linguistic adventure?
How about we look at those idioms that are about, how we view ourselves and others.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready to delve into some more metaphorical meanings.
Let's do it.
It's fascinating how those hidden parts of ourselves can shape our interactions and decisions.
It really highlights that everyone has a story, layers we might not see right away.
Okay, but let's end on a brighter note. What about those times when we're over the moon?
Ah, pure joy and delight. This idiom captures that feeling of overwhelming happiness. Whether it's achieving a long-held goal, experiencing a moment of profound connection, or simply enjoying the simple pleasures of life.
It's like that feeling of accomplishment when you land your dream job, the exhilaration of witnessing a breathtaking sunset, or the warmth of spending quality time with loved ones.
Exactly. It's those moments that make life worth living, those bursts of joy and gratitude that remind us of the beauty and wonder that surrounds us.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From action-packed phrases to animal wisdom, from social awkwardness to the weight of secrets, and even a touch of moonlit joy, we've explored a vast and colorful landscape of idioms.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple phrases can pack such a punch, revealing so much about human nature, culture, and the ways we navigate the complexities of life.
I feel like I've not only expanded my vocabulary, but gained new insights into how language shapes our perceptions and experiences. What stands out to you from all these idioms we've discussed?
What fascinates me is how idioms can act like cultural bridges. We might speak different languages literally, but these shared metaphors hint at universal human experiences, whether it's the joy of being over the moon or the caution of letting sleeping dogs lie. There's something relatable in these phrases.
It's like we're all connected by these shared threads of language, these little glimpses into the human experience that transcend cultural boundaries. And to our listener, thank you for providing the inspiration for this incredible journey through the world of idioms.
I always enjoy these deep dives, and I hope you do too. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which idiom resonated most with you and why? Does it connect to a personal experience or something you've observed in the world around you?
Until next time, keep an ear out for those colorful phrases, and remember, sometimes the most profound truths are hidden in the simplest of sayings.